So today's presentation is making KPIs understandable and the metadata behind them. So thanks for joining the webinar today. We will be exploring how metadata plays a critical role in making KPIs easier to understand, use and trust. And we just begin with a common challenge, locating and interpreting the data behind annual KPI reporting. By capturing this information in a metadata registry, organisations can significantly reduce their time spent searching for definitions, calculations, and data sources. As Kevin said, we are members here of the Metadata Analysis Standards Team, or MAST, here at Aristotle, and we'll explore several ideas on the subject and conclude with a demo of indicators in the Aristotle Metadata Registry, and feel free to ask questions along the way. So our topic, the overview of our topics today. We're going through a few slides and then concluding with a bit of a demo. So the challenge with KPIs, we've discussed a little bit. What is metadata for indicators and the role of metadata in KPIs. A little look at the structure of the indicators items within Aristotle, and they're covering outcomes, indicator frameworks and indicators and plus a few more. A little bit about indicators and governance. We only have a short time today, so that you can imagine is a whole discussion in itself, but we want to highlight the fact that that's important to consider here. Demonstration of indicators in Aristotle, and then we'll just go through a little bit about the benefits, etc. So using metadata for indicators for improving clarity, consistency, and confidence in performance reporting. When we talk about performance reporting, one of the biggest challenges organisations face is not the lack of data, it's the lack of the shared understanding of the data. This is where metadata becomes critical. By defining indicators using metadata, we create a single authoritative description of what each indicator means, how it's calculated and where that data comes from. This improves clarity because everyone is working from the same definition. We reduce the ambiguity around numerators and denominators or business rules, something that Kevin will go into a little bit later. And it also drives consistency. Where indicators are centrally defined and governed, they can be reused across reports, dashboards and teams without being reinterpreted or rebuilt differently each time. This reduces duplication and prevents conflicting versions of the truth. Most importantly, metadata builds confidence. Decision makers can trust the numbers because they can trace them from the reported figure back to the source data. The transformation logic and governance approvals are all there as well. This transparency is essential for auditability and accountability. Metadata transforms indicators from simple numbers into well-governed, trusted, and support better decisions and more reliable performance reporting. So we'll go into this in a little bit more detail now. The challenge with KPIs. We all know they're critical for measuring reports. Many organisations face this ongoing challenge on how they are used and understood. And firstly, there's difficulty in finding and understanding KPI data. People spend too much time searching for the right numbers, and even when they find them, the context or meaning isn't always clear. So imagine a new member to your organisation is being tasked with presenting, reproducing a previous report. Instead of spending so much time searching for that information, if they've got the metadata in front of them, they can narrow down they can reduce their time spent doing that, get consistent information and feel confident in what they're producing is a recreation of a previous report. So secondly, we can see inconsistent definitions across reports without being centralised. The definitions will be changed based on each different KPI or report that they're looking at. So by different teams, the same KPI can be calculated differently and leading to multiple versions of what should be a single source of truth. So as soon as somebody detects that there is a variation, there's lack of trust, and then that leads to time-consuming data validation processes, and significant effort is now spent on checking, reconciling, and confirming figures before they can be trusted or reported, thus probably delaying, a planned date of release, etc. And ultimately, this creates a risk of misinterpretation and poor decision making, which is hopefully what all these KPIs are set up to do. And when stakeholders are not confident in the data or interpret it differently, it undermines the value of the KPI as a tool for informed decision making. So what's being set up in the first instance to assist stakeholders, executives, etc., to track the performance of an organisation or a policy or a program, they are now facing a challenge of those reports not delivering what they're supposed to. So these challenges highlight the need for a more structured and governed approach in how KPIs are defined, managed, and communicated. So what is metadata for indicators? Metadata for indicators is what gives KPI data its context and meaning. On its own, a number doesn't tell us very much. Metadata explains what that number represents, how it was produced, and why it matters. For each indicator, metadata typically includes a clear definition, so everyone understands exactly what is being measured. It identifies the data sources, showing where the information comes from, and it also documents the calculation methods, including how numerators and denominators are derived, and captures any business rules that influence how the indicator is interpreted or applied. Importantly, all of this information is stored in a metadata registry, creating a single authoritative source of truth. And by doing this, we ensure that indicators are not just numbers, but well-defined, consistent, and trusted assets that can be used confidently across reporting and decision-making. So the next part, and we're not going to go into this in too much detail, as I mentioned earlier, is how this information is governed and the benefits of putting this indicator information into a metadata registry. And one of the main benefits of all of this indicator work is the inbuilt registration authority feature that we have in Aristotle. Well, we just wanted to make sure that you can see that the additional benefits of that. So just a little bit of background, the National Archives of Australia, NAA, have a lot of great information, some of which covers establishing an information governance committee. And I would recommend, if you're interested in finding out a bit more about that, using that as a base document, because it's really good information in there. But the Aristotle Metadata Registry is a place where all of this can be managed by setting up a registration authority. It's consistent with the way that the NAA describe how to set things up. And it makes a one place for that management of information to take place. So the registration status in Aristotle is an indication of whether a plan or report has been fully approved for use publicly or is still undergoing the approvals process and has limited circulation. The registration authority determines the meaning of each of the registration statuses and what that status the information becomes, and at what status the information becomes publicly available. The process the organisation has followed for approving the data collection can be mapped to the registration status available in Aristotle. Issues such as the workflow, life cycle, and permits these rules to be further described in future reference about who, what, where, and when the data set was approved for collection and distribution. The Aristotle Registry allows you to manage how the items are endorsed in the registration authority, whether they can be publicly visible or only available to a specific group of users. Aristotle includes fields that permit the associated rules to follow when assigning registration status to the items being submitted to the registration authority. So a combination of the indicators being created in the registry and then managed and endorsed and approved in the registry is a nice combination to control the release of that information. So I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit high-level information about the items in Aristotle that we're going to talk about now, in general, what they are, and Kevin will take it from then and describe and just demonstrate how they are. So at the top level, we have frameworks, and these organise the strategic outcomes and targets. Brings together one or multiple indicator sets, and then under that are outcome areas, which provide a complete view of progress across a policy domain. The outcomes represent the high-level goals or intended impact. They set direction for the organisation, but they're not directly measurable on their own. And within the framework, indicators sets group-related indicators that share common objectives or reporting purposes. The indicators are measurable components. They quantify progress towards outcomes and provide evidence of performance. And the key to the relationship between them is each outcome is supported by multiple indicators, which translates strategy into something measurable and trackable. This linkage improves reporting consistency, strengthens accountability, as we've been discussing, and ensures alignment between what we aim to achieve and what we measure. And finally, within the registry, there are things called data quality statements, which add an important layer of transparency. They document any known issues within the data and assess it across key dimensions such as accuracy, timeliness, and relevance, helping users understand how much confidence they can place in the results. So how does this, impact a dashboard? So imagine this is a dashboard representing an organisation's KPIs. Everything we've discussed to date about the metadata in this can be applied here through pop-ups, definitions, and technical contexts within your own dashboard and whatever tool you're using. But what we wanted to show in specifically is how a metadata registry makes that information more accessible, consistent, and useful. So here are the indicators that we've been talking about. In general, they're clearly defined and linked to the underlying data elements with full lineage back to the original data sources. Back here. So all within Aristotle, we can create all of this information and to show how various data elements are linking into being used for an indicator framework that is appearing on your dashboard. All of this can be done without revealing the sensitive source table, actual table data. We're all still talking about the metadata and the descriptions, etc. By capturing the data, this metadata once, so we've captured one data element here and we can show that it's being used for this particular dashboard item. We can show that we've created this once and then reused it in a particular way, which enables the registry to show it's the consistency that it's from the source data tables through to the individual data elements all the way to the KPI indicator and definitions. It can be as simple as just relating one or two data elements to an indicator from a data set, or it can be as complex as necessary. And the registry can support all of that capability. So if there's everyone's happy to move on, we will move on to Kevin's demo. We'll be using Metadata New South Wales as an example, and feel free to ask questions if you have any.
Thanks, Robin. So for this demo, I begin by showing an existing indicator and its related components in Metadata and SW registry. These indicators are publicly available and published by one of our clients, that is NSW, Department of Communities and Justice. So I wanted to use a real world example to demonstrate how performance information on metrics is currently presented and how users can navigate through the associated metadata. So there are few questions which I'm gonna touch in this session. Firstly, where does this KPI fit in the bigger picture? To provide business context, the registry uses, I would say, Aristotle registry uses something called as framework and dimensions. So as you can see on your screen, this is how a framework looks. Uh, and there are some frameworks dimensions attached to that particular framework. So what is framework? I like to think of a framework as a structure that organizes performance measure, while dimensions represent the different aspects of performance being monitored. In this example, the indicator sits within a dimension, and that helps explain which area of performance it contributes to. Coming back to the next part, the next component I would say of indicator is, which is an important part, is outcome areas. So why are we measuring this KPI? To answer that, the registry, Aristotle registry uses outcome areas. Outcome areas explain the business objective that an indicator support and answers basic question like what are we trying to achieve here? So this is how an indicator looks in Aristotle. If you scroll down, there is an outcome areas and a quality statement, which is attached to this particular indicator. So if I click on one of the outcome areas, which is service provision, you can see this outcome area is being designed by DCJ, and you can see the associated indicators, this particular outcome area. Going back again to the indicator, we will go through out quality statements now. Next question, why we trust this information? So that's where the quality statements come in. Rather than simply presenting a number, quality statements provide additional information about governance, its relevance, and timeliness, helping users understand the quality of the information they're trying to use. And this is how quality statements shown in Aristotle. And this is how the data quality matrix has been designed by DCJ. So you can see by scrolling down the quality statement. And there's one more feature, it's called relation and links. At the bottom of the quality statement, you can actually track the relations and links of that particular quality statement, and you can click on any metadata item to go back to that particular lineages. Moving back to the indicators, another important question, how is this KPI calculated? So as you can see on the indicator screen, we got something called as a numerator, denominator, and disaggregation. Instead of treating the KPI as a black box, the indicator exposes its underlying components. As I said, numerator, which basically the value being measured, denominator, the value used as the basis of comparison, and disaggregation, which is basically the additional dimensions that allow results to be broken down and analyzed in different ways. This makes the calculation transparent and help users understand how the measures are derived. So, next question, what do these values actually represent? So as you can see, there are different data elements assigned on this indicator page. Behind those calculation, these data elements sits, and data elements, as you can see, if I click on one of the data element, you can see this object class, this property, this data element concept, the value domain, and all these components into one data element. So basically, it brings all those pieces together into something that can be collected and reused for that particular indicator. So this basically ensures that everyone interprets the data consistently across that indicator. Going back again to the indicator page, another important question, where does this data come from? So knowing how a KPI is calculated is, of course, useful, as Robin mentioned, but understanding where the data originate is equally important. So this is where data sets and data set specification comes into play that defines what information should be collected. So as you can see here, different data sets have been linked to this particular indicator. So you can click on it and see what information is there in that particular data set. So this represents the information used for reporting. Maybe, they provide traceability back to the underlying data sources. Going back to our indicator page, this is most important question, how does this KPI relate to other KPIs? So we got something called as indicator sets in Aristotle. So indicators doesn't exist in isolation. Indicator sets allows related indicators to be grouped together and reported as part of broader performance story. So you can trace that by going in the indicator page. At the bottom of the page, you can see the related content, and you can click on the indicator set to see which indicator set is part of, and you can go back to that particular indicator set to see how many indicators are assigned to that particular set. So this is a group of set of all the indicators, linked to that particular indicator set. Going back to the indicator page, so the overall goal isn't just to demonstrate every metadata type here. The goal is to show how a metadata answers the questions people naturally ask, something like, what does KPI mean? Why are we measuring it? Can I trust it? How it's calculated? What do the values represent? Where does the data come from? And how does it relate to other measures? And as Robin said, a KPI is easy to display on a dashboard, but it's much harder to understand. So metadata provides the context that turns a number into something people can trust and act upon. And that's really the idea behind this demo. So I hope you guys find it useful. And if you have any questions, please put that in the chat window. I will now.
So Kevin, I've got a question. So
Yes.
can you show me, I was talking about the governance. Can you demonstrate a little bit around where that can be shown in each item type, or in this item type?
Yeah, so your governance can be shown, as Robin mentioned, about registration authority and registration status. You can see that under the info box. So I guess this is not being registered. So I can go to one of the data sets here. And you can see the endorsement here, which is endorsed by FASCIA Data Governance Committee on 8th of April. And you can basically see the registration status and the dates associated to it. So by clicking on it, you can see the state of that particular registration and then the effective date of that registration.
Thank you.
Good, Robin. So if no more questions, we'll pass that on to Robin to cover the next set of slides.
So I just wanted to thanks Kevin for all of that great demonstration, and thanks DCJ for producing such a lot of material for us, not for us, but that we made use of. So one of the benefits to your team, and hopefully it's been made a little bit more clear through this demonstration, but the benefits for your team, for delivery and operational teams, the metadata registry makes day-to-day work significantly easier. It helps new members of the team to come in and hit the ground running, so to speak. It allows a lot of information that's stored in people's heads to be documented and written out. Like I said, it's not a final product. You can create content and have as little as a name and then develop further as more information becomes available. And it allows also for collaborative work. It improves faster access to KPI definitions and data, and it removes the need to search across multiple documents or systems. The registry has quite a powerful search capability and browse capability. So all of that, you could probably just enter a few terms that you're interested in. A lot of information will be returned in the registry for you, assuming the content's in there. So quick understanding of what measures what the meaning of measures are. Also results in reduced duplication and errors because teams are working from a single agreed definition rather than recreating or reinterpreting KPIs independently. Leads to more efficient workflows, less time spent reconciling differences, and greater confidence in the outputs being produced. Overall, a happier team, hopefully. So what are the benefits to your organisation? At the organisation level, the impact is broader and more strategic. A metadata registry enables improved transparency and trust. The stakeholders can clearly see how the indicators are defined, calculated and governed. And this supports better decision making since leaders are working from consistent, well understood and reliable information, and they have a lot more confidence in what they're using in their reports for their final figures. It also enables a scalable and reusable KPI framework. So we're trying to show that you could start with simple and very simplistic sort of relational stuff, and then more broadly. So where indicators can be consistently applied across programs, departments, and reporting layers without losing meaning or control. So together, these benefits ensure that indicators are not only easier to use at the team level, but also more powerful and trustworthy as organisational assets. So I won't spend too much time repeating myself, but in summary, we went over how KPIs often lack clarity, consistency and trust across organisations. They provide context, definitions, calculations, and data sources along with business rules in one place. And the metadata registry creates a single authoritative source of truth, and it can be used, and the registration process is all in one space that you can reveal all of that information. It links outcomes, indicators, and data for strategic alignment, reduces duplication, errors and validation effort, builds trust and supports better decision making, and enables scalable and reusable KPI frameworks across the organisation. So thanks for listening. Are there any questions that anyone has? I know we're sort of getting into the time for moving away. So like we said before, our presentation will be shared on YouTube. If there aren't any more questions at all, we might end it there. We are happy to follow up with any demonstrations or any more, if there's any more interest in the subject, we'll do some more follow-up questions. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.